Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 79th episode of the Manor Podcast. I'm your co-host, Roger Bodee, joined as always with my best friend and other co-host, Michael Hamilton. Michael, would you say that I love my son? Do you think I like being a father?
Yeah, I've seen it firsthand a lot. You definitely enjoy spending time with your son and being his dad. And you said so as well, which also confirms it, but I've also seen it. So yes, I would say that.
Okay, just making sure. He is now at the stage where he is now interacting with other children and bringing home other children's strange sickness and diseases, and then giving me congestion and coughs and sicknesses from these other strange children. So I just needed a reminder that, it's all worth it and that my sickness is not for nothing. So thank you.
Yeah, sure, I guess. Huh.
Plus, it's better to get sick now, the week before the battle hard, and then to be sick the week of the battle hard.
The calling.
Yeah. Or calling. Yeah, calling. That's right. I'm all out of it. So, as usual, even pay less attention to my opinions and hot takes as normal as this episode. I was catching some flack on the LSS stream. I shouldn't say maybe personally, but Brian and Craig Krempels were streaming together, and they said, from now on, when everybody says hot takes, just assume the next words out of their mouth have the same meaning as I'm completely wrong here. In hot take, I didn't appreciate that.
Wow.
I don't appreciate my hot takes being taken into question, Michael.
That's really what they said? Just hot take equals I'm completely wrong here?
Something along those lines, yeah. It was definitely like saying hot take means you're a big dum-dum.
Oh, I have hot takes too sometimes, I feel like, but
don't we all? That's part of being human. To be human is to hot take, I feel like. It's part of the joy and experience of life.
Sometimes you just
have passion.
A hot take is just like something that you don't agree with the majority on, right? That's what a hot take usually is. Or is that not a hot take?
That could be that's an example of a hot take. I thought a hot take was also a novel idea or an idea that would upset some amount of people, or novel, upset, or not agreement. I would say consider our hot takes. Okay, well, enough about hot takes. I'm sure we don't have any of those about the new heavy hitter set. Just nothing but cold, reasonable, level-headed, normal takes that we love everything about it, and nothing overly positive or negative to say about the set one way or another. Just a nice lukewarm takes. Yes. So, Michael, give me your mildest, most room temperature.
So I have done one draft of heavy hitters now. One draft. So I have some very strong opinions. But my first opinion is I kind of miss being able to just like draft cards and make playables. I had 3 cracked baubles in my deck in my first draft.
In my first draft, I had no cracked baubles. In my second draft, I was like, oh, my deck's really good. Okay, cool. We wasted a couple picks, but I think we're okay. And then I went to look at my playables, and I was like 29 actual playable cards in my deck, and I was like, uh-oh, I have to register a cracked bauble for the first time in my life. Here we are. So I played a KO deck with a cracked bauble, and I discarded a cracked bauble to
rally the rear guard.
No, better. Wild Ride, and it did not get go again.
At least it was gone.
And I was sad.
Yeah, I've been engaging with some other games, some drafting in other games like Magic, even Bright Lights and Flesh and Blood, where you don't really have to worry about playables so much. You can kind of like hedge around, try to figure out what you're gonna be, and then like you'll just have enough cards as long as you figure out a decent lane. And man, having to play 3 cracked baubles in my deck because I spent a few picks taking some Guardian cards because I wasn't sure if I was supposed to be Guardian or Brute. That was awakening.
Not only that, but this is the first set where we've seen a return to things like rare weapons that are draftable, and there's an increased amount of diversity for just equipment overall, I would say, in comparison to other sets. Mm-hmm. And trying to, like, if you draft a rare weapon and then your full equipment suite, That's like I think you get 9 total cards of not playable cards to take, like cards
So
that can't go in your deck.
so this set's 14 card packs, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna draft a total of 42 cards. So if you pick one weapon and four equipment, that's 5 cards. So then you'll have 37 actual cards left over. So only 7 of those cannot make it in your deck to
Okay.
end up with no cracked baubles.
Gotcha. Okay. I knew the math was somewhere in there. I was about to pull up my list, but thankfully I have Michael Hamilton on this podcast, so thank you.
Yeah.
So it just really puts the pressure on immediately. And I think one of the things I was looking forward to after a long time, because you couldn't even really stay super open in Outsiders. You could a little bit, but I didn't draft Bright Lights very much, but it didn't feel like you could stay open for super long in that one either. Do you think Flesh and Blood just has an issue with like the card count limit that you just have to make a pick with like you just have to fall into a lane in your first 4 or 5 picks, or you just have an unfunctional deck?
I do think that the card count limit or the packs, so the main thing is the packs are so small, right? You're getting
Mhm.
42 total cards and 30 of them have to go in your deck plus equipment. So assuming you want 4 equipment that is for you, you have to spend 34 of your 42 picks on cards that you want to play. And if you compare that to something like Magic, I'm just going to Magic because that's what I've been exposed to a lot. Magic, you get 3 15 card packs. You take,
And sometimes that's a 16 card pack if there's a foil in it, then, right?
I,
Or no, normally the foil takes the place of a common or something like that,
well,
right?
they stopped putting basic lands in most of their packs. So it's 15
Oh,
cards and they
okay.
don't have basic lands. So some of them did have basic lands. So those would essentially be 14 card packs. But you
Okay.
make a 40 card deck, but in Magic you get unlimited access to basic lands because you have to have lands in your deck to play your deck.
Yeah, so you only have to have 23 playables.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so a lot of decks end up with 23 or even 22. I've had a lot of decks that just play 18 lands pretty happily. So that's 20, let's say 23. And 23 out of 45, that's like almost half of your picks can be cards that go into your sideboard or go unused because you're kind of like hedging around between what you want to play and getting unplayables at the end of the pack. So comparing that to Flesh and Blood, where 30 out of 42, actually 34 out of 42, assuming you try to get your equipment, that's you get so few wasted picks in this game, and wasted or kind of hedging picks, things like that. So I think that just leads to the game being really on rails with your drafting. You just like have to pick a lane really early and then you have to stay in it because if you switch, well, even if the next thing's open, you probably still won't get their unplayables.
Yeah, I feel like the spicy decisions I'll make sometimes it's like, "Ooh, do I want this?" If I'm in Brute, it's like, "Do I want the Guardian Brute card or do I want the Warrior Brute card?" Ooh, this is a really meaningful decision I'm making here, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, there's definitely some interesting picks where like sometimes you'll take a card that's like not quite as strong as something else because it's what you need for your deck. Sometimes you'll take a blue
Like a
2
blue,
block over
yeah.
premium. Maybe not premium, but a solid red card because, well, you have to make sure you get enough blues for your deck to function. You're really just like, you end up in a lane so early and then you just try to make the best deck of that. And I think that's kind of why forcing has been so common and prevalent in Flesh and Blood is because there's not really that much time to figure out what lane you're supposed to be in. And a lot of the time, even if you're not a forcer, like you're not trying to force something, like if your first pick,
You're only 4 picks different
yeah,
anyways.
maybe your first 2 picks go together and now you're supposed to force whatever hero those 2 picks go to basically. So,
I will say in my last draft, it was interesting that I did. Pack one picked one a Miller's Grindstone, and I was like, okay, cool. We got a Miller's Grindstone. I'm gonna force Guardian, and I'm gonna try out
is that
this
Victor's weapon?
rare. Yeah, the
Okay.
one that like you clash and you destroy if there's cost less or whatever. So
Mhm.
you always get the card. And I was like, oh, cool. I'm excited to try this card out limited. It's a rare. It's not going to table very often, I feel like, or it's not going to be passed very often. It's very powerful.
Mhm.
This seems like a bomb. Pack one, pick one. Let's go Guardian. Boom. I did hedge my next pick by taking, I think, Rally the Rear Guard. And then my next 3 or 4 picks were like Brute Guardian cards. And then I was getting past like,
Brute bombs.
yeah, Brute. I think Salt and Battery Red is like a bomb in Brute right now. It's a 3 cost, 3 block beat chest. When this attacks, if you beat in chest this turn, create an agility token.
Sure.
So in KO, it just gives you the agility token and the might token because of KO's ability. And so you just get those 2 tokens for your beat chest, and then that sets you up for your next turn to have that might and go again. And then plus then you get to play the guardian chest off of that as well, which is the raw meat, because it's going to get +1 from the agility and +1 from the might token
The
at that
brute
point.
chest.
Yeah, raw meat. Yeah, here we are with raw meats and vigor girths. Uh, but it is what it is. So you're getting basically what amounts to roughly 3 to 4 points of value off the card you're discarding that you get to float between turns and kind of use flexibly. And I think that card is really powerful for that reason. I've been really impressed with Assault and Battery of any color. And what's nice is blue is 5 powered, so that also counts as a discard for KO as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The blue, on top of just being a blue 3 block, it's also like reasonable to play.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And if you are fortunate enough to combine it with another beat chest card, then like you could get the double
Yeah,
proc.
the non-attack action,
Yeah.
the
So like
Bone Breaker Bellow is the name of the non-attack action, which costs 1 3 block non-attack action. Beat chest. Your next brute attack gets +3. If you beat in chest, instead it gets +5. So it's a nice combo there.
Mhm.
So yeah, I've drafted a lot of brute so far because it seems to be open, which was not my intuition. I thought brute would be way overdrafted, but maybe it's just who I'm drafting with so far, because apparently KO in the brute, or the brutes, apparently KO is broken and sealed from what we saw in the sealed play in Queenstown.
Yeah, I think it might be a little too early to draw like pretty big conclusions from that. We haven't gotten to play any seals ourselves yet, but KO was. I pulled up the numbers. It was like there were 15 more KOs than Kasai's, and Kasai was second most played at in the 60s, and then Betsy was the third most played at like 40 something. So it was like definitely brute favored than warrior than guardian.
Which
But
makes sense. I think it's just so easy to get a KO pool because of KO's hero ability. So you don't just need the 6 power attacks, the fact that so many of the blues count towards your discard. So the vast majority of cards in this set work for brute, work for KO's ability. Like
mhm.
I think it's like blue wild ride, obviously non-attack actions, blue pack hunt,
Yeah, and even blue
blue
pack hunt's
bear
still a blue
fangs.
block 3,
Yeah.
but bear fangs and
And
wild
that's
ride
it.
at blue are
Oh,
kind of weak.
and blue beast mode doesn't work, but like
That's a
okay.
rare, right?
Yeah, and it's not, it's like
Still
it's
blue
supposed to
block
be the
3.
reason to go into Rhinar, because if you've intimidated this turn, it gets plus an ability. But you know what? The real cool thing to do with it is there's just cards that naturally intimidate, like Rawhide Rumble, where if you beat chest when it attacks, you intimidate them. So most of the time you're just playing blue, and your goal is to just play your Rawhide Rumble with the Vigor token, so it has go again, and then play your Beast mode, and that's like the best way to play Beast mode, because I don't know why you should ever play Rhinar. I don't see it.
Yeah, so I guess we can kind of get into that now. This seems like a good time. I think KO's ability of just getting +1 power on your next turn whenever you discard a 6, that's almost always going to be worth more than intimidating, unless your opponent's just trying to hard fatigue you from the start by blocking out. But I don't know if blockout fatigue is a thing in this format.
There's so many 2 blocks. There's a million 2 blocks.
Yeah. And you also have 3 power weapons, which is hard to block out fatigue. Like both brutes and guardians have a 3 power weapon. So like neither weapon's favored in the fatigue race, right? So
Mhm.
and then warriors have a 2 power weapon that gets +1 if you block with an attack action also. So like there's just not a lot of block out fatigue possibilities because the cards are going to be trading up on offense basically. Like if I play a 5 power thing, you have to give me 2 cards
Yeah.
for 1
And
card.
for and like a really common thing that I could point to is, since there's no blue sixes in Brute, they gave Guardian a new blue six, but didn't give Brutes any new blue sixes. Except for KO technically gets the blue sixes. So like a card like Agile Windup, right? So in red and blue, if you activate, or sorry, red and yellow, if you activate its ability, instant discards this, create an agility token. In Rhinar, what that amounts to is get an agility token, intimidate your opponent 1 time, and that's it. That's what you get for the card.
But if you discard the yellow or the red in Rhinar, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But if you discard the blue in Rhinar, you just get the agility token. No extra benefit. Sorry, because it has 5 power naturally. But if you discard it in KO, you get the might token. So it's just like he's limited on his resource base. So he could technically play 2 claws because Reinar does have a whole extra hand, but he can't play as many blues and still consistently like do Reinar things. And it's just like it's such a puzzle. I don't think there were any Reinars registered in the sealed play, or maybe there was like 5 and they like almost kind of made it, but probably would have made it if they were playing KO.
I believe there were more than 0, but I don't have the exact number. And also, like, it being like pre-release weekend, like the week before pre-releases, I just think that it wouldn't surprise me if people that registered Reinar would have just been better off registering KO. And yeah, I don't understand. I don't know why you would play Reinar in this format, honestly. Reinar doesn't look very good.
Because his specialization helmet it's a battle worn block 1. So destroy this, draw a card, and then discard a random card, go again. But you're not going to have as many hits because you're not KO's +1 ability. And then you got mini meat axe, which is when this attacks, draw a card, and this draw a card. And this to me signals like, okay, this kind of makes sense for a Reinar, but it's only 3 power, and it's not giving you any extra buffs aside from the intimidate. So most of the time, your opponent's just going to go, oh, okay, shrug. I'll take 3, and you still spent a card out of your deck to swing that 3 because you had to discard a card.
Yeah, and you can play mini meat axe and KO as well. If you discard 6, you'll get your might. Yeah.
Wow. I think Mandible Claw is. I'm interested to try Ball Breaker. Ball Breaker is probably really good in KO actually because a lot of the time you'll go again off of Vigor tokens. I've been finding agility tokens. Sorry, yeah, Vigors gives the resource. That's the other thing that's like really hard for me to keep track of. I don't know why Quicken, like encourage tokens, like all the old tokens, their names just instantly, okay, cool. This Quicken token, go again. Courage token, +1. Frostbite token, add 1. All these other tokens instantly registered. Maybe I'm just old now. I get Vigor,
agility, and
might. Might I always know it's +1, but Vigor and agility, because I'm like, oh, you got Vigor, you're ready to go, you're full of vim and vigor, you're ready to go, you're ready to go again, right? You got Vigor. No, you have energy, but it's for a resource. And it's like, oh, okay. And then agility is just like, oh, okay, I like that clicks on me. Let's go again. But I just think Vigor and agility both are go again when only one of them is go again. I don't know. I'm old.
Yeah, that's kind of like an age-old thing in Flesh and Blood where resources and action points feel like the same thing. Like they're not, but like thematically, like what's the difference between resources and action points?
That's a great question.
Snapdragon scale. shoes give you action points, chests give you resources. That's the difference. But like what is the other? Yeah. Like I don't know.
Yeah. But I will say I've been having fun. The games are interesting. I think Warrior is very good for what it's worth as well. I think it's been heavily drafted because people have kind of recognized that Warrior is very strong in draft, at least. I can see that not a lot of sealed pools support it, but if you get a good sealed pool, it makes sense that why Kasai was the second most played deck. Because let's say there's even you're playing into a Guardian like Betsy, and it's like, oh, haha, here's my overpower, and you're like, okay, well, I can still block with my reactions, like these 3 block reactions. I can still totally just block your overpower attack. I win the wager. I win.
Yeah.
Bet again, buddy.
Sorry, Betsy.
Yeah. Oh well. And Warrior has so many 3 blocks. So many 3 blocks.
Yeah, I think Warriors are the worst. Like the worst at threatening fatigue because their weapons baseline swing for 2 instead of 3. So it's less risky to give them lots of 3 blocks, I guess.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, the Warriors are strong.
I've missed the classic Warrior gameplay that I haven't had it since Welcome to Wraith, I guess. Because Bolton didn't really do this. You never got this feeling it's Bolton where they just like swing a weapon attack at you and they have a card in arsenal and they got like 1 or 2 resources floating. You're like, guess I'm dead. I block. And they're like, yeah, you're dead. You're at 3 life. You block for 3. My thing goes to 3. Here's this +3. You're dead. And it's like, oh, I could have overblocked and died because then I'm just overblocking for no reason and fatiguing myself,
Mm-hmm.
or I could not block and die. So those are really fun dynamic options you get in the end game with warrior sometimes.
Fun dynamic options, huh?
Well, I mean, they also get the agility token or whatever too. If you block with an attack, got to make sure you remember your triggers as you're right before your opponent goes to 0.
Sure. So I think the two warriors, both
Mm-hmm.
of them seem very solid to me. Like Olympia, just that's his name, right? Olympia.
Yeah, Olympia. Yeah,
Getting the gold whenever you win a wager seems solid, and then Kasai having her hero ability. I guess I was kind of surprised that there was so much Kasai in sealed compared to Olympia at the calling. But I guess if in sealed, you're probably gonna have more yellows. I think in a lot of draft decks you'll be a little bit lighter on yellows, so it might be a little
maybe.
closer what hero you play. Because I think if you have more than 30 cards, the first cards you're cutting are almost always yellows.
Yeah, I think uh, Olympia also needs a lot of the wager cards. So if you just don't get the wager cards, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense to play Olympia.
Mhm.
But getting the gold is definitely a powerful ability that I
Mhm.
think people are kind of sleeping on, where people are like, okay, where's the gold payoff? Like, there's going to be another card, like a cash in or a thing. Like, we saw that Majestic early, the double down that you could sacrifice a gold token in order instead of paying its casting cost. That helps you wager better. But I think that's it. Is that, well, that and Kasai's uh, cell
Specialization.
swords, yeah. But if you're not playing Olympia, if you have the Kasai specialization, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, it just plays really well with the rising card. So you got like cards like Rising Energy, where if you've drawn a card this turn, this costs one less, and there's just that whole rising cycle. And I
Yeah.
think those are actually pretty good.
I think those are actually the gold payoffs. I think the go again one, especially, I don't remember what it's called, but it's 2 for
Rising
5.
Speed, yeah,
Yeah.
Rising Speed's very
Or if you've
good. Yeah.
drawn a card, it gets go again.
Mhm.
The zealous belting of the sets.
Yeah,
Powerful.
yeah. And then there's also Runner, but that doesn't have anything to do with gold. It's just if you controlled when it attacks, if it has go again, when it attacks, if it has go again, create an agility token. So it like eats your agility token and then spits out another agility token, ideally.
Yeah, I do think that card is good.
Yeah, it's a Majestic, so yeah.
It also blocks 3. And it's a 2 for 6 that blocks 3.
Yeah, it's a very good card. Take that card if you can.
Mhm.
So let's talk about the disparity between the three tokens, though. So if you had to rank the power level of Vigor, Might, and
Agility.
Agility. Yeah, I was getting there. I totally knew Agility. What's the power level between Agility, Vigor, and Might then? What's the difference between them?
So I think agility is just the best because agility very frequently lets you convert cards, like let you just play out your hand more, play more cards in your hand. Since so many of the cards in the set block for 2, you would much rather be playing them on offense than defense. Agility just gives you the tools to do that more often. So, although they are all technically worth 1 point of value, because there's so many 2 blocks in the set, because you have so many 2 blocks that you just rather attack with than block with, agility is really good. I think an example is a hand of one of the 3 for 7s that wages. If you have 2 of those and then you have 2 blues, and let's say
Mhm.
your whole hand blocks for 2, then if you have an agility token, you can convert your hand into 14 points of value. If you don't
I've done that play. That's a good play. I love that play.
if you don't have an agility token, now you're sending 1 3 for 7, and the other 2 cards you're either blocking for 4 with, which is only getting 3 less points of value than you would with the agility token, or blocking with the blue and arsenaling the other 3 for 7 if your arsenal is available. And then you're getting 2 points of value out of the blue, and then you have hopefully this card in your arsenal is worth 5 points of value, because that's the difference between what you would have had in the agility token, which is it's not going to be, especially if you don't have agilities to use it later, because it's going to take your action point.
Mhm.
But yeah, so agility basically turns on, it makes the bad hands a lot better. And if it's a good hand where you just have 2 3 blocks of blue and the wage agility or wage whatever 3 for 7, then the agility token's not going to be worth as much, but it's still probably going to be worth as much as the might or the bigger token would be. So I think the
Yeah.
ceiling is way higher and the floor is around the same, pretty close to the same. Um, Between might and vigor, I think they're a lot closer. It really depends on your hand. A lot of the time when I'm building a limited deck, I'm trying to make my decks so that I have resources to play the things. I'm looking for a lot of 3 costs if I have a decent number of blues. If I don't have if I'm short on blues, I'm looking to make sure my deck can function with just pitching a yellow on a lot of turns and not put too many 3 costs in basically. And because of that, I think vigor is like hard to use sometimes. It's good if you have like 4 cost things in a guardian deck, but I think vigor is probably the weakest one, and then might is just consistently +1. It's always going to be 1 point of value. The floor and the ceiling are about the same, whereas vigor,
Mhm.
a lot of the time, it's going to be worth basically nothing, and then sometimes it's going to be worth a whole card, which it's great because then you can block with that card for 2 or 3. But usually it'll be, or a lot of the time it'll be worth nothing too.
Yeah, I agree 100% with your assessments. With agility, I think by far and away the best one. Might is good, especially when you can start stacking multiple might tokens. That additional power really starts stacking up for kind of pushing a lot of damage, obviously. But vigor, it's very easy to just waste that resource on a lot of turns because if you don't have the go again from agility, which, if you're guardian, you're not necessarily getting, it's you can have a million floating resources. If you don't have the action points to support it, does it matter really? I just don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's honestly probably why we see Brute as the most represented class is they have agility and might, which I think are probably the 2 best tokens. And
Yeah,
Guardians are
exactly.
the worst because they have might and vigor,
Vigor.
which are not they don't get access to the best token.
No. And carrying that line forward a little bit, where the ideally vigor would allow you to like maybe block a little better because like, oh, okay, I don't need to pitch maybe necessarily because my hand's more freed up a little bit more dynamically. I can block a little bit better. Like I can, instead of pitching this extra card for my 4 cost or whatever, I can now block with it and whew, we're good to go. But nothing blocks in this set. It's so bad to block.
Yeah, there are a decent number of 3 blocks in the class cards. So if Guardian's a little underdrafted, you'll get a chunk of 3 blocks. It's just like
Sure.
I guess like ideally if you're all drafting in a reasonably like efficient way where everyone's drafting a hero that like it's like a 3-3-2 pod, then everyone should have a decent number of 3 blocks, but there are a
Yeah.
lot of 2 blocks in the format.
Yeah. I had an interesting pod where it was 4-2-2, and I was still reasonably happy with my KO deck.
And there
I
were
still
4
thought
brutes.
there were 4 brutes, 4 KOs, 2 guardians, 2 warriors. I went 2-1 in that pod. I beat a guardian and warrior and lost to one of the brutes.
Okay.
So take that for what you will.
Initially, I think a lot of pods are going to be 2 guardians, 3 warriors, and 3 brutes. And I think the guardians should be okay in that case. They have a lot of 3 blocks. I think like their warrior matchup is kind of tough, but I actually think the guardians line up pretty well against the brutes if they get a good amount of 3 blocks. And then like you can kind of like arsenal one of the one play pattern that came up and my one draft that I had was I didn't have an agility token, and my opponent goes pitch a blue, play one of the big guardian orders that gives your next attack +4, +5, and you can wager. And I looked at my hand of 4 cards and no agility token, and I'm like, how am I spending these 4 cards?
Mm-hmm.
So guardians can kind of like punish you by doing that, and then like it's really hard for these brute decks to spend their whole hand if they don't get a block with one of the cards sometimes.
Have you ever seen an agility token?
So well, you know if your opponent has an agility token going into their turn, unless they have an agile
Do you?
windup specifically.
Exactly. Yeah. They have an
Which
agile windup. Or sometimes there's blocking cards that will get it. I guess they're not guaranteed to get it, but like the clash with vigors or things like that. Clash of agility. Sorry, they block with like a clash of agility. They win the clash. They didn't have the
well,
agility
if you're
token.
letting them block, they aren't going to be stuck with a 4 card hand. I'm saying you take a setup
Sure.
turn to
Okay.
just play the aura,
Okay.
and then
That's fair.
you don't attack them that turn, so they can't use any of their cards to block.
Okay. Okay.
But
Maybe.
I don't think like ideally you have a brute deck that if your opponent's taking a turn to just set up an aura, you're like, okay, I'll just take my cards and hit you with them. But a lot of the time, it is kind of hard to spend a 4 card hand without an agility token.
If you say so. I have not had that issue so far. Very rarely. Because of mechanics like beat chest, you have the windups that just let you do the thing. You should have some amount of like non-attack actions like lead with speed or even like lead with might. not a lot of them, or the one cost pump as well. And then if a really interesting thing is that once you've discarded one of those windups, the windups are just amazing in KO because you discard it, you get the agility and the might with agile windup, and then your claws turned on. So then you get that going and attack, that resource thing
Mhm.
to attack with, and then whatever you want to attack with. So that's an easy way to spend 4 card hands. You also have cards like Wild Ride, which is at common, so like that's a very easy way to get go again. I just think their brutes are very, very aggressive, and I think their hands play very fluidly in the gameplay that I've had so far. I've not really had the experience where like, oh man, I can't use all my cards come up in KO so far. It's a limited sample size, I'll give you that. But like, yeah, most of the time I'm just like, you give me space, okay, here's 25 damage. Okay, you give me more space, here's another 20 damage.
Yeah, that's fair. I do my experience is limited to my 3 cracked bobble KO deck, so
Yeah, if you have a lot of cracked baubles in your deck, I could see how it's tough to use a 4 card hand with 3 cracked baubles in your deck.
yeah,
For
so
sure.
so my I did win a game with that deck, so
Hell yeah, dude. Do you want to talk about the equipment a little bit?
yeah.
I really like the equipment in this set. I have to say, there are things about this set that I do really like. I like the equipment a lot. I think the equipment's very interesting.
So it's interesting because there are on hits in the set. There's the whole wager mechanic where you want your equipment to block the wage things. If they're waging, that's when your equipment wants to jump out there and block. But all the equipment in the set, or the majority of the equipment in the set, is conditional on when you can block with it or how much it blocks for. So you
Mhm.
talked about, I think, raw meat, is that what it's
Yeah.
called? Where it blocks for +1 if you have a might, it blocks for +1 if you have an agility and has temper. So ideally, you have 2 tokens with it, you block for 2 with it, and then you have 2 tokens again later, and you block for 1 with it, and you get 3 points of value out of your chess piece. That's great. But
Mhm.
maybe the turn your opponent wages with you, you got no tokens. You aren't blocking with your raw meat if you got no tokens. If you have 1
Yeah.
token, you could block if it's the difference between stopping a breakpoint and not. But so there's those equipment. I think each class has one that's for their 2 tokens. Is it a chess piece for all 3 of them?
No, one's a chest piece. I know the warriors are gloves, and I don't know anything about guardian.
Okay.
Guardians are legs. If you control a might and a vigor,
And
they
then
have leggies
yeah. And then
because they don't
there's
get the good legs that make a agility token. So
okay. The good legs to make agility token.
yeah, the card that I think like I
The blade
snapped
break
this off.
one.
Yeah, the flat trackers. Every time I see a flat trackers, I'm like, give me. It makes the best token, and it's in the 2 best classes. Easy take, please, please.
Yeah. So there's the cycle of those that you can sacrifice to make a token, right? Is it a chest that makes a vigor? And
Yeah.
the gloves make the might.
Mhm.
That would make sense because it lines up with the resources too. And then there's generic equipment that you can only block with if you're lower life. I think there's one for each slot, and they all block for.
I love that equipment.
Do they all block for 2?
They all block for 1.
They block for 1. Okay. Yeah, that's right. There's a hat that blocks for 2 if your opponent's only if your opponent's drawn a card that I was thinking of.
Yeah. So there's the hat, chest, glove, legs, and there's also an offhand shield that's generic, but KO can't run it.
The
So
payoff for
it,
being Reinhardt is you can have 1
and
extra life.
and you're never gonna play it over a saber if you're in warrior.
Yeah.
So it's there though, but they all have the text where this toughness is equal to the number of opposing heroes with greater life than you. So if you're playing Ultimate Pit Fight, these can block for 3 potentially. That's pretty good. But in games of limited, they're going to block for 1 most of the time. And there's really interesting gameplay patterns where that happens with this, where you're doing the math and you're like, okay, I can do this wage thing right now. Okay, let's say my opponent's hand has like 1-2 block and a 3 block. Can they, without giving me an extra card, can they come up with like an extra 2 points of value? Okay, they have Ticket Puncher and Grandstand leg plates. Okay, I'm ahead of them right now, but I could take this damage, which will put me below them, which would turn off their equipment, which then lets my attack go through. So like you're incentivized to like take damage to turn off your opponent's blocking capabilities on their equipment. I think it's just like a really fun and engaging play pattern.
Mhm.
And like I've pretty happily gone to 1 sometimes when my opponent still has all of their like life equipment up, and I'm like, hey, can't get any value out of your equipment now, buddy. Who's laughing now that I'm at 1? Oh, I died.
Having memories having memories of my skull caps being turned off.
Yeah,
Terrible.
exactly. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's the adversity series, which is like you said, there's face adversity, which you can only block with if your opponent's drawn a card. Oh, then there's adversity, which is you can only sacrifice it if they have destroyed a vigor this turn. So it's not make. So if your opponent like makes a vigor token, you still can't block with it. You got to wait till the next turn in order to block with it. And then you have adversity, embrace adversity, which are the gloves, which might token, and then overcome adversity, which are probably the best of the series, but all the legs in this set are very good. So it has also a lot of room to compete with because you can block with them when your opponent blocks has destroyed an agility token, which if they're going wide and presenting a lot of attacks with their go again is when you want to be blocking with your equipment most of the time anyway. So I like that one quite a bit. But Guardians already get the temper legs, and Brutes and Warriors already get flat trackers. So I think they're probably the best of the series, but still not best in slot, I would say.
Yeah, the competition is high.
Yeah, for sure. And then I didn't know how to feel about there's two more generic headpieces, which Glory Seeker and Sheltered Cove, which Glory Seeker is instant pay 3 draw a card, and Sheltered Cove is instant pay 3 destroy this, prevent the next 2 damage. And I remembered, you remember this little trick? Remember this little trick? You're on the draw and you got a bad mopey hand. You activate Helios Miter.
Mm-hmm.
That's what these bad boys are for, baby. That's the real reason you play these in your deck. Is just like, oh man, I got like 2 yellows and 2 reds in my opening hand, and it's like I can't spend it. I don't have any resource. I can't do anything. You just pitch those bad boys, set up a pitch stack for second cycle, draw your new card, prevent your 2 whatever, fix your. There's chef's kiss for that. So good.
Yeah.
And maybe sometimes you'll occasionally activate their other abilities for other reasons too. But I like them on turn 0.
I do think the draw a card one, it has synergies with the other cards that care about drawing a card if you draw a card on your turn.
The rising cards, yeah, for sure.
I think overall they're probably worse than the hat that just blocks for 1 if you're lower than your opponent, but
no, I think the block for 1 equipment is the worst equipment in the set.
You think it's worse than the prevent 2 or draw a card for a blue or for
3
resources?
Because the reason why I don't like the life equipment is that it gives your opponent agency in the ways that I just talked about, where they're almost like Punisher chess pieces, where like your opponent has a lot of leeway in deciding whether or not your equipment even gets to function this game.
Sure.
So I very heavily dislike them, and most of the time when I just get an opportunity to block with them, I'm just like, please just let me get my 1 value out of my equipment. You're ahead of me right now. Block. Get out of here. Go.
I do think a lot of the time you shouldn't be cashing them in as soon as you can,
but excited to delve more into it. Excited to learn more about it. Maybe I'll try learning how to play some Guardian. I think Victor has potential. I think a lot of people are really high on Betsy, but I honestly am more interested in Victor than Betsy in limited.
Yeah.
But
I think so I guess the biggest reason you'd play Betsy is the common auras are commons, and
sure.
Victor doesn't really make good use of them, whereas Betsy kind of does. She's like pretty happy to wager because it turns on her ability. She can give it overpower and +1 for 2 extra resources, which is pretty good. Victor, you really want to have at least 1 clash card that makes it gold. So there's the Majestic, but the more likely one is the Test of Strength, I think it's called. Blocks for 4, you clash, the winner makes it gold. If you ever resolve that as Victor, you get a whole extra card, which is like
real good.
Resolve that to win the clash at least.
Yeah. So. Any ways that you can make gold, so like wage golds or money where your mouth is, anytime like if you just have a reasonable amount of gold making effects, I feel like he's just a hero that can kind of spiral out of control with that value. Like he just uses gold so well since he just immediately draws the card off the first one that's made a turn. So
yeah. Just keep your arsenal open if you're going to be drawing a card on offense.
Yeah, for sure. And Trounce is like especially disgusting in him if you could ever pull that off. It's a Majestic still, but it's the block where when it defends clash 2 times, if you win both clashes, you get a gold, a might, and a vigor token. So like you're drawing a card and you get the might, and you have it's just like it's so good. It's so good. So maybe he's stacked in your favor deck though. Maybe we're not trying stacked in your favor enough. I keep looking at stacked in your favor, and my eyes just kind of glaze over, and I'm like, who would
What
play this card?
for the audience? What does stacked in your favor do again?
It's the rare Guardian Aura with Go Again. Costs 2, blocks for 2, like all auras do now. And your attack actions get +3 while defending. At the start of your turn, destroy this, draw a card, then put a card from your hand on top of your deck.
Okay. Yeah.
So the red one's +3, the yellow one's +2, the blue one's +1. So I think the red one, then maybe you're just trying to supposed to like you just commit to Guardian, you draft really well, and you actually get above 30 playables, and you have some stacked in your favors. I think that could potentially be how a fatigue would potentially work.
Sure. It turns on the hammer too.
I'm not abandoning hope on Guardian by any means, because they do have some powerful stuff going on. Like I really like the concuss, or like this whole cycle command respect, where if they have plus power, do this really powerful on hit. Those cards are all really good. Like I get it. Like sure, like you get those powerful effects because the cards that use the might tokens are the best ones. Wow, who would have thought that the good tokens go with the good cards to do the good effects? And then what synergizes with the vigor token?
4 costs.
Okay, what 4 costs?
There's
Wallop,
some Guardian 4 costs.
a
A
wallop,
Guardian 4 cost, yeah.
a vanilla. You're just you're just two for sevening. You get to be a brute for the turn. You get to pitch a blue and attack for 7 with no extra text. Could you imagine if you just got to like pitch 1 blue, attack for 7, and get upside on your attack stuff? That would be like, could you imagine being in a class that did that, Michael? That would be like insane. That'd be way too good. You have to make them cost 4 to attack for 7, and then when you have the special token you do, then you can pitch 1 card, attack for 7 with no extra benefits or anything like that. That's where you.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. There's also Colossal Bearing, where when you get it up to 13 or more power, when it hits a hero, destroy a piece of equipment they control with toughness 1 or less.
Yeah, that one's pretty rough.
Yeah. So yeah, guess we'll see. Excited for Hartford. See everybody there.
Yeah.
Have you done? We can talk more about Constructed next week, but have you played any Constructed games? I'll drop this little teaser here at the end.
A little bit. I've been working on Kasaya a little bit. I think she's very interesting. I think she could be potentially pretty good, but not sure yet. I'm actually also interested in basically every warrior in CC right now, except Olympia. He's kind of dead to me.
Okay.
But
I'm interested in a warrior.
Yeah, you're always interested in Bolton.
Yeah. I think he's the best deck now.
The best deck.
I think he's the deck for Pro Tour 3. I'm getting close to my locking into my 80, I think, and I'm going to post it to Twitter.
PT3 was like...
Or PTLA.
Yeah.
Yeah, LA. PT4.
Right? So you're getting close to locking in your 80?
Yeah.
I don't even know what class I'm playing.
Like, I'm just taking my battle hardened list and changing like maybe like 10 cards based on some of the changes you get in heavy hitters. Yeah. Like take it on the chin. I think is really interesting because remember when I was talking about like, well, maybe I'll play Oasis Respite if I want to play around Pummel and CNC a little bit better. But take it on the chin being the instant prevention effect, giving me kind of flexibility like that, as well as if I go back to a radiant piece of equipment, that then becomes the 4 extra instant prevent effect damage that I need after blocking for 6 on a Command and Conquer to play around a Pummel. And that play pattern sounds really interesting to me, especially considering then I get the Vigor token. So then I get to come in with like my Engulfing
Agility
token. Jesus. Stupid tokens. Yeah. I get the Agility token. So then my stupid Engulfing Light has go again. Boom. Easy. We did it. And then I get to charge it and then attack with my Raid. Like that's just a good, clean value. And that card seems really interesting to me.
Yeah, we talked about Agility tokens being good in Limited. I think Take It on the Chin is going to be a constructed star because you can like sit on it until you need the Agility token or your opponent plays a reaction. You just take it on the chin, get your Agility token when you want it, and then boom. I think the more proactive Agility token makers are going to be reasonably worse because you don't know. Like you play it one turn, the next turn you're like, hopefully I really want this Agility token. I think they'll be fine. I think some of them will probably see play, but I think Take It on the Chin is definitely the best Agility token maker in my opinion. Maybe Runner is very good.
Yeah, because it only needs to have the go again. It doesn't need to have destroyed an agility token on the effect to go.
Mhm.
Runner is interesting, but yeah, take it on the chin is definitely a card I'm super interested in. Plus, agility tokens. It's funny how good all the tokens are. Agility token is in limited, but I've had really. I tried a more heavier agility token focus just to like get some play with the cards, just try to see like how it feels making these tokens and constructed.
Mhm.
And they're beautifully designed when compared to a quicken because let's say I make the vigor token and then I draw my Mopey Bolt in hand and then I can't really do anything with the go again. Like I play my engulfing light, then it gets go again that turn. Like, okay, I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Whereas a quicken token, I can kind of wait to like do the thing and then do get the extra value after that because it's not just that one cycle use. I think the one turn they destroy go away on the tokens was really clean. I think that's a really good play pattern for these tokens compared to the old ones.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. I do think the agility tokens, the main place I'm excited to play around with agility tokens is actually in Dorinthia. I think like her having like unconditional go again, like she's already been playing cards like Spoils of War and even like hit and run and stuff, these cards that are not very efficient as ways to get go again. That because there's not really that many good go again enablers. And then like if you have an agility token, it's not like Warrior's Valor where you like need to hit to have your go again. You can play if you have an agility token, you can attack with the Dawn Blade. If they block it, you're like, okay, here's a Command and Conquer.
Yeah. I guess the really subtle thing about the templating and all the new warrior cards that I love, I think it's I wish all warrior cards always would have been designed like this. Is all the old warrior cards target weapons? They're like your next weapon attack gets +3. Your next weapon attack gets go again. If you've attacked with a weapon, do the thing. And weapon. And Bolton's over here going like, I guess I'll play engulfing light. I don't really attack my weapon that often. It's like okay, but now all of them say your next warrior attack. And
Yeah.
now they all pump your attack actions that they want to put in warrior now. So now Kasai's little tokeny duos can get the benefit of these pumps or these actions. Or Olympia's can get the benefits of these benefits or effects. And it's just like that design space is just so much leaves so much room for flexibility within the class that they don't just have to be weapon like all the time. I love it.
Yeah.
It's so good. It's part of the reason why I'm also super excited for Bolton because he gets all these new things that can target his stupid little doofy attacks. Sick.
Yeah. And I think if you look at the equipment suites in the game, I think the best heroes are usually the heroes that have the best equipment. I think that's the only reason Guardian is like functional after Oldhim rotated is Bravo still had a very strong equipment suite.
Mm-hmm.
Warriors equipment suite's looking real good.
Yeah. Hot streak, opening up all kinds of new combo lines where um, since it just gets go again for the whole turn if your opponent's blocked with it. If would you try to combo it if you lead with it and your opponent tries to like, aha, I'm gonna block the combo out. They already it was hard to do with attacks, but it was still doable sometimes. Not
Mhm.
anymore, not on that hot streak. And I kinda sorta wanna try maybe the two block, like the parrying blade or whatever. I think and like to a matchup like not Dorinthia, Azalea, that could be interesting. So maybe like post combo, if you use it to combo then you could then try to like block if they present an on hit because you don't really need both sabers post combo most of the time anyways. But I
Mhm.
don't know, it's a cuter idea, and I think it's more niche in terms of its application. But I'm glad they exist. They're sweet.
I need to read what parrying blade does also.
I believe it's just our parry blade once per turn attack cost one gets it gets +2 while defending a weapon attack.
Okay, so it
Oh.
does not help you block out Azalea.
Oh.
You can't parry an arrow.
Maybe you can't. You gotta work on your swordsmanship, buddy. I can.
She's like, I'm shooting you with a sleep
And
dart,
you're
and
like,
you're like,
I've seen
throw
Star
this
Wars.
throw the
If
sword away. I
Jedi can
haven't.
parry lightning or laser bolts, you know? If Qui-Gon Jinn can parry a stormtrooper's bolty do, Bolton should be able to parry Azalea's arrow.
Okay.
It's just a
Okay.
one for one clean example.
Yep. Checks out. So I think I'm not very excited about Guardian and CC. I think like Bravo got a new blue 6, so goodbye Boulder Drop
Hell
Hello blue
yeah.
6.
Dromai
Blue.
unplayable confirmed. We did it. Get out of here, Dromai. See you
Yellow's
later.
melting is a little bit better. We can finally cut this blue disable from or yellow disable from our deck. So that's great. Good news for Bravo. Um, The Clash cards seem okay. I don't know if you'll play any of them because they're competing with Sink Below and Fate Foreseen, which are quite good at being able to arsenal your defensive cards pretty important.
That's a future conversation. We'll get into that one. I got some hot takes about the new block cards. Let me tell you, buddy.
All right. I don't know if Betsy's got what it takes. She might. There's some exploring there to do there. Victor's pretty cool. He might do things. I think the new brew. I think KO is real though.
That's what everybody's been saying. I'm excited to get some more reps into KO.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us, or some of the games I've been getting into, were more on Levia to see how some of these new cards play in Levia. It doesn't seem like a lot of them slot in super cleanly, but I don't know. I'll leave that to Mancient's opinion to figure out how these new brute puzzles work. And I'll just sit there and saber combo them and move on with my life. So good luck.
I think one thing that's kind of cool is you can now actually build a blue base full of sixes if you want. If you're playing KO, you can play 26s at blue if you want.
Yeah, now your deck can be consistent enough to play in a tournament. Wow, what a concept.
And the new gloves are very strong as well.
Mm-hmm.
They 2 block with temper, and then you get plus a might token whenever you block. So when it's kind of worth 5 value if you get a might token each time you block with them. So pretty strong.
Yeah. Okay. That sounds like a good closing thought, unless you have any final words to go off on our heavy hitters' initial thoughts.
I'm excited to see what the set does. It's going to shake up Constructed, going to shake up, of course, it's going to shake up Limited. It's the new Limited format, but yeah. Well, that's all I got.
Okay, sounds good. Well, remember the next time you're not drafting Rhinar in your next heavy hitters draft pool, always remember, mind your manners. Thanks for watching.